careful what you wish for, and how your actions have consequences are a recurring theme. Most people enjoy the media that conveys these messages and carry on with their day, not giving it a second thought. Why would you? It's not like wishing wells, genies, or wishes in general are real anyway, right? But what if they were? What would you wish for? And how could you afford to pay the equal value of that wish? Recently, I read the story of Holic, and if you've seen my video, you know what I'm talking about. It's a supernatural manga. In this story, there's a magical shop that grants wishes. If you have no wish, you can't see the shop. Those who enter the shop are greeted by the mysterious shop owner Yuko, who always warns her customers about the nature of wishes and how they will have to give up something of equal value in order for the wishes to be granted. Nothing more, nothing less. The shop owner can take their souls but chooses not to. If a wish is too demanding, she flat out refuses to grant it, but instead offers a solution to the problem. Like if someone was struggling with internet addiction or wanted rumors to stop, she'd recommend other avenues. Wishes have a value and a price must be paid to obtain it. The rules for how the wishes are granted, rejected, and fulfilled are transparent in this show, but that's not entirely the case for Obsession. The movie gives you basic details and lets the audience make their own interpretation of Wish Nikki. That's what makes this movie and the One Wish Willow so fascinating to me. Before I share my interpretation of One Wish Willow and how it might possibly work, I'd like to share a couple of fairy tales and cautionary tales surrounding the theme of wishes with you. The first story I'll share is from Charles Perrault, a French fairy tale about a woodcutter, his wife, and 3 wishes that Jupiter or the tree spirit had bestowed upon them. The wife told the woodcutter to think through what he would wish for, to hold off wishing until the next day, but oops! Wish 1 without much thought was granted simply because the woodcutter was hungry and wanted sausages. His wife got angry and they argued, so in the heat of the moment, he wished for the sausages to stick to his wife's nose. When they finally calmed down, the last wish was used on removing the sausages from the wife's nose. There are various iterations of this floating around, and this is the one that I picked because it was readily translated and on Wikipedia. In the end, they got left with sausages. There weren't really any limitations and rules for the wish other than the wish being limited to 3 things, and that's all we have to go off this story. And the themes were be careful what you wish for, keep your greed in check, and maybe take some anger management classes. This story is from 1902 by W.W. Jacobs and follows Mr. and Mrs. White, their son Herbert, and the monkey's paw. One night, a sergeant known as Morris visits their place for dinner. He introduces the couple to this strange paw and explains how a spell was placed onto it to be able to grant 3 wishes. But the user is bound to a twisted, hellish fate, and the consequences are just insane. Morris is freaked out by the paw and tosses it into the fire, but Mr. White retrieves it. He's kind of fascinated by the item, you see. Before leaving, Morris warns Mr. White, reminding him of the misfortune the item brings and not to give in to temptation, not to use it. After Morris leaves, Herbert the son encourages his father to wish for 200 pounds, which Mr. White does. The monkey's paw moves and kind of twists and turns. Mr. White kind of freaks out and drops it, right? The next day, the wish is granted, but in a twisted way. Herbert was killed at work, a horrible accident that mutilated his body, and as such, the employer came to give bereavement payment to Mr. White, a whole 200 pounds. After the funeral, Mrs. White, overcome with grief, begs her husband to bring back their son. So he does. He wishes for their son to come back to life. But what walks back to their house and bangs on the door is far from Herbert. Knowing that the entity outside their house is not really their son, Mr. White makes his final wish for it to be gone. Just be over with it, done with it. Please, just leave us alone. Goodbye. There's a moment of silence, and when they open the door, no one is there. The monkey's paw is very popular and it has been adapted throughout the years. Even the anime that I mentioned earlier, Holic, has its own rendition and play on the monkey's paw in episode 8 of season 1. It's absolutely chilling and a great angle on how wishes might work, and that's why I think it's lasted all these years and people keep getting inspired by the monkey's paw. In the monkey's paw, The wishes don't just magically materialize out of thin air. Something must be taken, a price must be paid. Something must give in order for something to happen. Something or someone must pay the price, or a sequence of unfortunate events must take place before your wish is granted. You can't wish for $1 million and expect to gain it in a short amount of time without something awful happening in order for you to be able to be handed that money. Something must happen to make you entitled to that money. So, with all of these short stories in mind, we have a theme, a collective idea of how wishes normally work in these like horror/cautionary tale type of stories and horror theme tales. So I'm hoping that we can use this to help us understand how the One Wish Willow really works. So some common rules for wishes are, number 1, the most obvious one, you can't ask for more wishes. Number 2, you can't make someone fall in love with you. And number 3, you cannot wish to kill someone. But we know that those two, the 2 and 3, you can definitely wish for that. That can definitely happen, but it's just going to go down a twisted path more often than not. You have to give up something like your soul, or something horrible is going to happen. You also cannot wish for there to not be rules. In some stories, you can wish to undo all your wishes, but that's not really the case for obsession. So what are the rules for wishes in obsession? Not many, if I'm being honest. If you type in One Wish Willow, you'll be redirected to this first page. It should pop up on Google search, and it just leads you to, obviously this was created by the movie creators. They knew that people might look into this and maybe they're going to sell this as merchandise. Actually, it's sold out. It's a vintage collector's item, but there's this cool ad that you're greeted by when you click on the website. The instructions are to open it from the box, make a wish, snap the willow in two, and that's it. It'll start working its magic. One Wish Willow is a single-use item intended for a wish per person. It warns you to think carefully about your wish, since it's your only shot at having it granted. Single use only. Grants one wish, no multiple attempts. Using additional One Wish Willows will not change or affect your other wishes. Only one wish per life per person. You can't change your wish. Once made, a wish cannot be reversed or repeated. Consider long-term effects. Wishes are irreversible. Think carefully before wishing. Limitations of the wish are: cannot grant wishes involving time manipulation, resurrection, immortality, or creating more One Wish Willows. Use at your own risk, because tabby cat curiosities won't take responsibility for any wish misinterpretations, and the burden falls on the user. So when things go from sweet to sour, you're on your own, which we see Bear eventually face, though he calls a hotline and tries to alter his wish first before trying to cancel it later, only after maybe hearing the painful agony of the real Nikki scream. So the rules are: One Wish Willow is a single wish granting item. You can't reverse your wish or cancel it, right? We know that now. Additional information that we learned through this website is you can't ask for time manipulation, resurrection, immortality, or more wishes. The more wishes part was kind of obvious based off what we've seen, how wish stories usually go. Except there is no limit on making someone fall in love with you, with the willow. And the most interesting thing is the wording in the FAQ on the website, and possibly in small writing on the packaging, right? The manufacturers are not responsible for the misinterpretation of a wish. So that is the biggest clue on how the One Wish Willow works. It works based on the wish's interpretation of what the wisher wanted. it's bound to make mistakes, especially if its perception of, I want Nikki to love me more than anyone else in the world, doesn't align with what Bear was hoping for. And honestly, it leaves a lot of gray area. The wish has way too much reign on how it can make this wish come to life. The lack of information on what the wish takes from the wisher left me kind of wondering, is the value of some wishes more than others? Well, yeah. Like, if I take this idea of paying no more or less, but the price that has to be paid for a particular wish from Holic, then maybe you or someone has to give something. In this case, Bear has to forgo and give up Nikki's real self in favor of this version that would love him forever, right? It would also explain the horrible luck Ian had right after wishing for like $1 billion. He like shows up to the house as soon as he opens the doors, goes in, it's like, what's going on? Bam, Nikki shoots him, or wish Nikki shoots him. And maybe I'm reaching based on the monkey's paw story, but maybe not, since Curry Barker, the creator of the movie, was inspired by monkey's paw and also mentions in an interview how he did not want Wish Nikki to come off as possessed and more of a jealous girlfriend than anything else.
It was all about not leaning into the possessed. Like, I didn't ever want her to play possessed. I wanted her to play like a jealous girlfriend.
What happens to Nikki once Bear makes his wish? Nikki's behavior grows erratic immediately after Bear makes his wish. To me, it felt as if she was splitting into a version of Bear's wish, what his idea of Nikki is, or at least when she isn't having a struggle with the real Nikki. Wish Nikki says something so peculiar, if you remember. The first night when she goes over to Bear's place, she mentions how Sandy, Bear's cat, died, right? And she says, my cat. She's treating it as if her cat died. It's as if she's kind of glitching out. It's as if she's confused, right? In a split second, the Wish Nikki catches her mistakes and corrects it immediately. Wish Nikki is reminding herself that she is here to emulate Bear's wish, the idea of Nikki being in love with him more than anything else, and not really becoming Bear himself. It's Bear's cat that died, and she is not the same person as Bear. She's supposed to be this individual known as Nikki. Wish Nikki also struggles to find a sense of security with Bear. Her insecurity in his feelings for her constantly sends her in a spiral. All she wants is for her feelings to be reciprocated. She loves him more than anything else in the world, so why can't he? Wish Nikki can't fully grasp how to fulfill the wish. Think about it. Asking a magical willow to grant the wish of making someone fall in love with you is one thing. But to make someone fall in love with you more than anything else in the world is a gigantic ask, in my opinion. The scale is unbalanced, and the exchange has to be paid by someone. So that's why Wish Nikki completely hijacks Nikki and struggles to be able to fulfill this. Mainly because regular Nikki sees Bear as a little brother, and that's why fulfilling the wish is a much heavier task. Maybe the willow wouldn't have to be so twisted if Nikki had some sort of crush or felt some sort of romantic way about Bear. Maybe it'd be a lot easier to grant the wish, because then it wouldn't be going against her will. It'd be encouraging it. I don't know. I'm just throwing ideas right now. At the kickback, it feels as if through Wish Nikki, the real Nikki is trying to break through with her twisted story. If you don't remember, here it is. I found a blurry script online, and this is how it goes. The air was charged by the distant call of the night bird. His face was obscured, but I knew he was looking at my chest, each side stretching, recently matured to different sizes. Hansel, come lie with me, like the old woman taught us when we were children, I said. He closed the door and leaned against it. You're not my wife, Gretel, he said. I am more than your wife. I'm your sister. Hansel flinched and reached for the door handle. I knew he would not leave this place. He would relent and choose to be inside me, like he had many nights before. If not, I would have filleted his meaty forearm rolled it like a stick of licorice, and inserted his flesh between my legs. Hansel is my soul, my cud. Brother, you will be inside me tonight. I went to him at the wall and reached for his sharp shoulders. His eyes were on the door, but his hands grabbed my hips. It's so chilling, especially knowing that there are so many times where you can tell Bear throughout the movie can tell something. I mean, he can tell that Nikki is not herself, and he's constantly trying to run away from her at times, but he still spends time with her, sleeps with her. It's such a twisted take on Hansel and Gretel's relationship. It conveys Nikki's disgust for Wish Nikki and Bear's relationship. Nikki never saw Bear as more than a brother figure, so the thought of having sex, kissing, and being lovers with Bear is just horrifying to her. The Wish Nikki continues to evolve her interpretation of Bear's wish, growing more and more deranged as she keeps attempting to morph into the ideal type of Nikki that could express her love for Bear. She completely neglects her well-being and self-identity, dedicating every breathing moment while she's awake to Bear, because one of the few times real Nikki is able to break free is when Wish Nikki is asleep. And of course, this scene sends chills down my spine, and I think it's freaked out a lot of people as well.
Kill me. What would be so bad? What's so bad about being with me?
To be trapped in your own body, but have no free will, nor control over it, is hellish. So hellish that Nikki would rather die, begging for Bear to set her free. Wish Nikki hates sleeping because of nightmares. One could imagine that these nightmares are just the two of them not being in a relationship, maybe. Or it's the only time Wish Nikki is not able to fulfill the wish. It's the only time she's apart from Bear. The One Wish Willow doesn't have to be a negative thing. There was that shop owner who was able to have a maybe happy outcome out of it. I think if your wish isn't twisted or doesn't have anything to do with bending someone else's will, One Wish Willow doesn't have to necessarily be an evil thing. It could have good endings too. Maybe you wish to get rid of a disease you had, an incurable disease. Maybe there was a way that somebody found cure for it. I don't know. Just throwing out ideas and posing that the item itself might not be malicious, but it's your intent. Of course, it gets to the point where Wish Nikki ends up using One Wish Willow to wish for Bear to love her back. Why was she insecure in this relationship anyway? Be careful what you wish for, the words you choose, the weight of the wish, and consider for a second what it truly would mean, what it would truly take to make that wish come true. What will be lost in order to make that wish a reality? And if that particular reality is what you were hoping for, and are you ready to take the responsibility for it? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye-bye.